2024 was a great year for video games. We had remakes, we had MMORPG expansions, we had gacha games, we had RPGs, we had great multiplayer games, great platformers, and anything in between. 2024 was a great year for video games, and I'm going to give you my top 5 games of 2024 with some honorable mentions. Let's jump into it. Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Luminari and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be breaking down my top 5 games of 2024. 2024 was a little bit of an interesting year for me. I didn't play too many games, but I kind of did at the same time. That doesn't really make sense. I started a lot of new games and I just kind of dropped them even though they were really good. And I only really finished a few games this year. So 2024 was a great year for me in video games, but at the same time, there's a lot of pieces that I still need to pick up that I'm slowly getting across that finish line. If you like top 5 videos, and anything like that, please drop a like down below, click that subscribe button, and leave a comment. I would like to hear what are your top 5 games of 2024. And if you have any honorable mentions that you want to put there as well, please let me know. I love reading your comments down below. So without further ado, let's start with my honorable mentions. Now, for my honorable mentions, I have 3 games. 2 of them are along the same vein because they are by the same publisher, but each of these games are games that I started and almost finished or just barely didn't finish, and I'm super excited to play them once again when the time comes around. My first honorable mention, I am super excited to jump back into this in January when it comes to PC, is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I love the first Final Fantasy VII remake. It was one of my favorite games of the year when that came out, and I even really liked Crisis Core remake that came out a few years ago as well. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth dragged me in, and let me tell you, the reason why I didn't get too far in this game was because it had so many things that I could do, and I was so excited to do them all, and then it just didn't happen because we ended up moving later in the year. I got bogged down with work and it just kind of fell off to the side, and I never really picked it back up. But in January, I'm super excited to pick it back up and kind of burst through it as much as I can because I know that it's going to be one of my favorite games ever, probably up there with Final Fantasy VII. I'm going to kind of lump these 2 in together as my honorable mention. I have Metaphor ReFantazio and Persona 3 Reload. Persona 3 Reload, I am almost done. I'm about halfway through, I would say. I just got Aegis, and I'm super excited to finish that a little bit down the line as well. And Metaphor ReFantazio obviously has been game of the year for so many different people, and I'm so excited to jump into it. I just, once again, fell off the side of it because life got busy and I never really picked it back up. And both of these games are my favorite types of games. They're social links, they're JRPGs, they have great story elements, and I know that once I pick them back up and I finish them, they're also going to be at the top of my list of maybe games of all time, you know. So these 2 I didn't get to finish, and I know that they would probably be on this list if I did. So now, let's jump into our top 5 video games of 2024. If you know me or you've joined any of my Twitch streams, watched any of my shorts, one of the games that I enjoy the most is Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, any sort of gacha game. And when I got wind that there was going to be a new gacha game coming out, I obviously had to download it. And that game was Infinity Nikki. And let me tell you, when I first saw this game, I was not interested at all. My girlfriend is very, very active in that community, has played a lot of the other games, and so when Infinity Nikki came out, she started playing that on the PlayStation, and let me tell you, I sat here and I watched her play it for about 5 hours before I finally said, you know what, let me download this and see what it's about. And let me tell you, I did not regret it, which is why it's in my top 5 this year. Let me tell you, Infinity Nikki has some great puzzle designs. It rivals that of some other platformers, but once again, it's not hard. It just was really interesting and unique to have in a gacha game as well. I also really need to compliment how they use the outfits in the game, how much care and how much time was put in to make sure that clipping in the outfits wasn't a big deal. I mean, obviously there's going to be a few that clip in between, but the way that the hair works with specific headbands and stuff like that, you can really tell that there was a lot of love and care put into that sort of stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, the story is there, but it's not a bad story. I am almost done the story, and it's been pretty interesting up until this point. It isn't one of those ones that's like heart-wrenching and rips my heart out, but it's something that really helps move the game along and gives you little lore bits about why Nikki's here and what's happened in the past, and it's just a really, really cool experience. And I think that the story did something that I wasn't expecting it to do, which is giving me a reason to keep coming back. And on top of that, I feel like this game isn't vying for my money as much as I thought it would be. You get a ton of free pulls, you get a ton of free crystals, and if you don't get an outfit, that's okay, because when it rolls around again, your pity's already saved. All the parts of the outfit that you've already gotten are saved, and it's really, really cool because that doesn't feel like I have to spend money in order to make sure I get the outfits that I want. So overall, Infinity Nikki has a lot of great things about it, and I'm still enjoying my time in Mirrorland as we speak. Coming in at number 4 was a game I wasn't quite sure if it was going to break into my top 5 of the year, but as I looked through all the games I played this year, I think it definitely deserves a spot on my list because of how much fun I had with it. And I know there's a lot of people, if you watch this and you've played it, that are going to disagree with me, but I think number 4 on my list is Final Fantasy XIV's expansion, Dawn Trail. And you might be like, well, that's not a new game. I understand. I made that argument for the Game Awards, but you have to realize that each expansion of Final Fantasy XIV is by itself something that is a completely new game. There's new weapons, new classes, all this sort of stuff. And I think, to me, it guarantees a spot on my list as a new game, even though it's technically a DLC. And let me tell you why I put it on my list. Obviously, the story itself is lacking. It is not amazing. There's a lot of flaws within the story. But for me, the reason why this sits at number 4 is because I finally had the experience of being there. And if you don't understand what that means and you've never played an MMORPG, when you start the story from the very beginning, you're there with a bunch of new people and no one kind of really knows what's going on. But as you slowly start to figure it out and you slowly go through the different expansions, you finally get to see where everyone is. And with Dawn Trail, I finally got to be there with everybody when the expansion came out, which was super duper cool. And that's one of the experiences that I will hold near and dear to my heart for most of my life, because I just really loved questing alongside my guildmates and all these other sorts of things, because it was just a really, really cool experience. And on top of that, one of my favorite things to do is to watch streamers or YouTubers play the game as well. And I didn't have to worry about not spoilering myself because I already got to that point in the game. So watching Jesse Cox or JP or any of these other streamers that I watch that get to these moments in Dawntrail, I get to watch them experience it and be like, yep, I understand what that's talking about. And I just really, really enjoyed it. And not to mention the raids and the dungeons, in my opinion, were right up my alley. They were a little bit harder, but they weren't too hard. And, you know, when you wipe, it's kind of like we wiped the experience. But for me, I really liked the slight up in the difficulty for the dungeons and raids in this expansion, which really tied everything together for me. So that is why Final Fantasy XIV's Dawntrail is number 4 on my list. Number 3 should come as no surprise to most people, as I just released a video earlier this week on it. It is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. And I'm going to do a quick rundown of it. If you really want that big review on it, you can click that button up at top that should just come on over right about now. And it'll have my full review over there. But Dragon Age: The Veilguard to me is one of these games that is flawed, but it also has very, very good character writing in it and what kind of pulls the game together for me. And let me tell you, the things I loved about this game are the companions and the antagonist. Both of them do such a great job at making this game worth it. And while the story itself is on the weaker side and the combat is nothing to write home about, I think the companion writing, the character writing, and the writing of the antagonist Solus is really, really good and glues this game together for me. So that is why Dragon Age: The Veilguard is sitting at number 3 on my list. Now, number 2 might come as a surprise to some people because it is so recent and new, but I have put over 15 hours into this game already, and it's been out less than a month, and that is Marvel Rivals. And let me tell you, back in the day when Overwatch 1 came out, and let me tell you, I was one of those people that every day when I came home from school, I would hop on Overwatch, I would play tank, I would do all these sorts of things. And let me tell you, Marvel Rivals really captures that sense once again, because it has great characters in the game. There's a cast of characters that are really, really neat, from people like Magic to Psylocke to my favorite Moon Knight, and even to some more interesting ones like Jeff the Landshark or Cloak and Dagger, stuff that people might not necessarily know about. This great cast of characters each have their own personality and each have their own moveset, which I think is really, really nice. And let me tell you, it also gets bonus points for working at launch. Most games don't work at launch. We have server problems or other things, and from my opinion, the only thing that I remember that didn't work at launch was giving them money to buy stuff at the store, which in my opinion is really no big deal. But I was able to get into games, I was able to play day one, which was super exciting. And the active dev involvement in the game as well is nothing to shy at, because I have reported people for nicknames or stuff that they've said in text chat, and I've gotten notifications and emails telling me, hey, that this person has changed their name now, or we saw this behavior and we banned it, which is really, really, really cool for me as well. So Marvel Rivals sits at number 2 on my list. Coming in at number 1, and my game of the year for 2024 is none other than Astrobot. And let me tell you, this game is one of the closest to perfect platformers that I think I've ever played. It has an amazing level design, and each level itself, even though it might be self-contained in a galaxy, each one of them has an amazing like landscape to it, and all these sorts of power-ups that you get, they just kind of work with everything, and it makes you feel like you're this little bot that can really do anything. And it is such a good and fun game, and the collaborations that they were able to put into the game with other Sony characters and even Sony partners, I guess is the best way to say it, because you could find bots like Kratos and Aloy and all these sorts of things. But then you also found bots like Kiryu from Ryoga Gotoku's hit series Yakuza, which isn't just a PlayStation game anymore. And it didn't take away from what the game was. It made me want to play the game more, to find the characters that are unique and are super cool. And it just really worked together. And let me tell you, playing this on a PlayStation 5 controller makes the game. The way that everything feels different on the controller, the way that it rumbles, the way that when you walk over sand, it feels like sand on your hands, or the adaptive controls when you pull back on something. It is amazing. And another great thing to say, and this is a lot coming from me, is that I didn't realize that the story was there until it was. Until we were sitting there at the end of the game when there was tears rolling down my cheek because of something that happened. And just, I was like, I really do care about this little Astrobot guy that I've been running around with for the past 30 something hours getting the platinum trophy for. So all that combined makes Astrobot my game of the year in 2024. All right, that about wraps up everything here. I am so excited to see what 2025 brings, because 2024 was such a great year. If you liked this video, please make sure to drop a like down below. Click that subscribe button for more content, because we got another video, maybe two, coming out this week as well. So if you like video game content or just any nerd content in general, you should click that subscribe button down below. And also leave a comment letting me know your games of the year as well, because I will be in there and I will read every single comment that I can, because I enjoy hearing what you have to say. All right, everybody, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you back here later for another video. See you guys then.